Mumbai, 2013. Under the glamorous facade of the upper class, there are dark secrets that no one expected. Meera, a young wife, entered a rich and powerful family, thinking that she had found happiness. But behind the door of that luxurious mansion, there were terrifying truths, hidden pains. For one fateful night, everything changed forever. A mysterious fire, a series of shocking truths, and a woman determined to expose the crime. But will justice come in time, or will everything be shrouded in darkness? Meera, a young woman with a gentle beauty and a kind heart, is the embodiment of devotion and love. When she married Rahul, she had a strong belief in family happiness. For Meera, life would be complete with her husband by her side and the unborn child, building a home that she always dreamed of. However, under the cover of happiness, Meera silently endured a lot of pressure. She sacrificed herself, ignored injustice, and accepted many disadvantages to maintain harmony in her husband's family. Meera not only sacrificed her own dreams, but also her pride and self-respect. Every day she tried to maintain her life with patience, believing that love would overcome all difficulties. But is love strong enough to keep her faith in a family with many dark secrets? Rahul is the only son of a wealthy and powerful family in India. Although he loves his wife Meera, he has a weakness that is hard to hide. He lives under the huge shadow of his father Karan, a man whom Rahul always respects. Therefore, Rahul often lets his family, especially his father, decide all the big and small issues in life. Even when he realizes the injustice that Meera has to face, Rahul does not have the courage to stand up for her. Rahul's weakness and dependence gradually turn him into a silent person, accepting control instead of fighting for his love. Karan, Rahul's father, is a powerful and ruthless man with cold eyes and a manipulative mindset. He not only holds financial power but also controls everyone around him through sophisticated tricks. For Karan, everyone is a pawn in his game of power, including his family. Women in his eyes are just means to achieve his selfish goals and personal calculations. His past is full of abuse and cover-ups of his crimes. But thanks to his unparalleled power, he always escapes punishment. Karan is a nightmare that no one in the family dares to confront, not even his son Rahul. When Meera stepped into her husband's lavish home, she thought she would be welcomed with warmth and love. But the reality was completely opposite. From the very beginning, Meera clearly felt the cold atmosphere surrounding her, especially the calculating gaze of Karan, her father-in-law. Although the mansion was large and powerful, Meera was no different from an outsider, caught up in the vortex of hidden domination. Karan, the powerful man who controlled everything in this house, did not need to speak loudly or shout. With just a glance from him was enough to make everyone fear and obey his orders. Even Rahul, whom Meera trusted and loved, could only remain silent in the face of his father's domination. Rahul's weakness made Meera feel more lonely and vulnerable than ever. At first, Karan's actions were just sarcastic remarks, judging Meera's ability in the family. He always looked down on her, rudely dismissing all her opinions. Meera felt like an invisible statue in the large house, only able to stand silently watching everything happen without saying a word. But gradually the harassment became more frightening. Karan began to show unusual interest in Meera. Unnecessary light touches, ambiguous compliments about her appearance, and dark eyes always following her every time she passed by. Meera clearly felt the danger in his every move, but she knew she could do nothing. Her every word and action was blocked by the invisible wall of power. Karan acted as if he held her fate in the palm of his hand. Whenever Meera tried to distance herself from him, he would pull her closer by making her feel small, weak, and powerless in her own home. He would often insinuate that in this house, no one could stand up to him, no one could stand up to the power he wielded. Although Meera knew she was facing a threat, she also realized that Karan was slowly encroaching, using his power and dominance to control her every breath. His subtle, vicious harassment turned her life into a nightmare with no way out. The walls of the lavish house now became her prison, not only physically but also mentally. Mumbai, 2013. It was a glorious night in the lavish Karan family mansion. Family and friends had gathered for a lavish annual party. Giant chandeliers were twinkling, classical music was playing, and laughter was everywhere. Meera, with her gentle and graceful appearance, moved through the crowd, trying to fulfill her role as a model daughter-in-law, always appearing friendly and gentle in front of everyone. But inside she felt lonely and insecure. Although everything around her seemed perfect, the silence and distance from her husband, Rahul, made her feel more and more lost. Their marriage, once full of promise, now had only cold emptiness. Rahul, who once promised to love and protect her, now seems to have lost all courage and spirit, caught up in the pressure and control of his father Karan. As the drinks kept pouring and everyone was getting drunk, Meera decided to leave the banquet hall for a while to regain her composure. She needed some peace and quiet to calm herself amidst the prying eyes and rumors about her cold marriage. She quietly walked out to the back garden, where darkness and silence enveloped her, giving her a rare sense of peace amidst the splendor of the mansion. But little did she know, this silence was just a premonition of a terrible nightmare that was about to unfold. Karan, her father-in-law, had been silently watching her throughout the party. With cold and lustful eyes, he decided to take this opportunity to commit a disgusting act. As Meera was standing by the dark garden, Karan suddenly appeared from the darkness, with a drink in his hand and a meaningful smile on his lips. At first, Meera tried to keep her distance, feeling that something was wrong with the way he approached her. But before she could react, Karan used his strength to force her into a hidden corner of the garden. The strong smell of alcohol and his haunting gaze frightened Meera, and she began to struggle helplessly. Karan, taking advantage of the situation when no one was looking, raped Meera in the cold darkness of the garden, within the discreet walls of the luxurious mansion. After satisfying his animalistic desires, Karan left, leaving Meera in horror and humiliation. She lay on the ground, her body trembling, her eyes filled with tears but unable to utter a word. Everything seemed to collapse around her. Meera's heart seemed to shatter as she realized that she could do nothing to resist Karan's power. She knew that no one in this house would stand by her, not even Rahul, the husband she once loved. Everyone in her husband's family was just a pawn manipulated by Karan, and if she dared to speak up, she would be pushed out of the rich society, humiliated once again. But the pain did not stop there. In the days that followed, Meera had to face the terrible haunting of that night's events. She tried to forget, tried to continue her normal life, but the silence only increased the pain inside her. She had to pretend that nothing had happened, trying to maintain a perfect appearance in front of everyone, especially Rahul. But her mind became more and more confused and collapsed every day. Then one day, when Meera started feeling tired and had strange symptoms, she decided to go to the doctor. At first, she thought it was just the stress of a stressful life. But when the test results came back, her whole world collapsed. Meera was HIV positive. The terrible disease not only destroyed her body, but also ruined the future she had hoped to build with her unborn child. But the pain did not stop there. In the days that followed, Meera had to face the terrible haunting of that night's events. She tried to forget, tried to continue her normal life, but the silence only increased the pain inside her. She had to pretend that nothing had happened, trying to maintain a perfect appearance in front of everyone, especially Rahul. But her mind became more and more confused and collapsed every day. Then one day, when Meera started feeling tired and had strange symptoms, she decided to go to the doctor. At first, she thought it was just the stress of a stressful life. But when the test results came back, her whole world collapsed. Meera was HIV positive. The terrible disease not only destroyed her body, but also ruined the future she had hoped to build with her unborn child. Instead of holding her, instead of comforting her and standing by her side, Rahul just stood there, eyes wide with confusion. Words of comfort never came. Instead, he backed away, eyes filled with fear and contempt. Rahul did not want to believe the truth that Meera had just told him. He could not face the fact that his own father had committed this crime, and even more so that his wife, whom he had loved, was now the source of a terrible disease. Rahul, in a fit of panic and selfishness, turned his back on Meera. He refused to listen to any further explanation from her, refused to face the painful truth. For him, admitting this meant breaking everything he had believed in and relied on. And instead of standing by his wife, Rahul chose to remain silent and avoid her. He even blamed Meera for not protecting herself better, for letting such a terrible thing happen. Rahul's backsliding was a fatal blow to Meera. She had expected support and protection from the man she loved, but instead she received indifference and coldness. Rahul not only refused to protect her from Karan, but also refused to face the crimes his father had committed. Rahul's cowardice caused Meera to collapse even more, not only physically but also mentally. Rahul's backsliding was a fatal blow to Meera. She had expected support and protection from the man she loved, but instead she received indifference and coldness. Rahul not only refused to protect her from Karan, but also refused to face the crimes his father had committed. Rahul's cowardice left Meera broken, not only physically but also mentally. Meera was now completely alone. Not only did she have to fight HIV, but she also had to endure humiliation and isolation in the very house she had thought would be the safest place. Karan continued to live as if nothing had happened, manipulating everyone around him, while Rahul grew more and more distant, leaving Meera to face all the suffering alone. In the following days, Meera sank into despair. She understood that her life would never be the same again. Rahul's silence and abandonment. Meera, a gentle, loving woman who believed in family happiness, now fell into the depths of despair. After the shock of being raped by her father-in-law, infected with HIV and betrayed by her husband, she felt like her life had been completely destroyed. To the people she once loved and trusted now turned their backs on her, leaving her in indescribable pain and loneliness. The house that used to be her shelter was now a cold prison, where all her hopes were burned away. However, the suffering did not stop there. During the lonely nights, when all the light of hope gradually faded, Meera felt another fire burning in her heart. It was no longer fear or sadness, but hatred. From the depths of her pain, a strong and uncontrollable emotion began to rise. She realized that if she kept silent and waited, she would forever be buried in the domination and crimes of this family. Justice will never be on her side because powerful people like Karan always know how to cover up their crimes with wealth and power. Meera understands that waiting for justice or help from outside is meaningless. Her husband's family will never be punished for the crimes they have committed because they will do everything to manipulate the law and hide the truth. Meera no longer believes in justice because in this world, justice is only for the strong, and she, as a hurt woman, will forever be a victim in the silence of power. Indignation turns into motivation, and Meera begins to plan revenge. She is no longer the weak, resigned woman she used to be. Now she is a raging fire, ready to burn down everything that pushed her into the abyss of suffering. Meera no longer seeks forgiveness or hopes for justice. She takes it upon herself in the strongest way she can. She is no longer a victim of fate, but the driver deciding her own fate and the fate of those who ruined her life. Meera has now lost all faith in the law and society. She understands that in the world ruled by her husband's family, power and money can cover up any crime. Karan and his family will never be held accountable for what they have done. They have the power to bypass the legal loopholes, and no one but them will pay the price. In Meera's heart, justice is just a distant illusion, and if she wants something to change, she must act on her own. Determined to get revenge, Meera begins to gather all the necessary information. She secretly hoards flammable materials, meticulously researching ways to cause a fire that no one can escape. Every move she made was carefully calculated, leaving no trace of a flaw, all while she maintained her usual gentle, resigned appearance, leaving no one to suspect the plan she was secretly carrying out. As each day passed, Meera acted like a good wife in front of her husband's family, but in her mind, every detail of her revenge plan gradually became clear. Her ultimate goal was simple yet cruel: to destroy the entire family that had ruined her life, in one fateful night when no one could escape her wrath. The fateful night finally arrived. Meera, looking her usual self, attended a large family party. She smiled, chatting with everyone, as if nothing special had happened. Her husband's family, powerful and self-satisfied, were immersed in wine and loud laughter. Little did they know that beneath her gentle exterior, Meera was ready to carry out a cruel plan of revenge, something she had been preparing for months. When the night fell and everyone began to get drunk, Meera quietly left the party. She carefully locked all the doors and windows, making sure that no one could escape. The cold click of the latch was a signal that no one could hear but her. Meera went through each room, checking every exit, then returned to the prepared spot where she knew the fire would spread fastest. In the dim light of the mansion, Meera lit the most flammable places. The flames spread rapidly, spreading through the curtains, carpets, and luxurious furniture. She watched the flames spread without hesitation. Within minutes, smoke began to billow from under the doors, and soon the entire lower level of the house was engulfed in flames. As the laughter of the party began to fade into the smoke, screams and panic began to rise. Chaotic footsteps echoed throughout the mansion as her family members began to realize the danger approaching. They ran in all directions trying to open the doors, but all the exits were locked. The flames, like a wild beast, surrounded them from all sides. All the once arrogant and complacent people were now imprisoned in their own home, a place they had once considered inviolable. Meera stood outside, calmly watching the flames consume the house. There was no fear or regret in her eyes. She silently watched the fire burn, feeling the screams, the desperate cries for help coming from within. She did nothing, did not move, just stood there like a cold observer, enjoying the moment she had waited for so long. This was the moment Meera knew she had gotten her justice in her own way. The flames of revenge had now washed away all the pain she had endured all this time. Her husband's family, the ones who had made her life hell, were now paying for all the crimes they had committed. The fire burned down not only the house, but also all the painful memories Meera had carried in her heart. She showed no remorse. This moment, a moment of perfect revenge, was all she needed. After the house was completely burned down and all members of Meera's husband's family died in the fire, the incident quickly attracted the attention of the police. This was not a normal fire, and the brutality of the fire shocked everyone. The police began investigating immediately after the people living nearby reported it. They searched every remnant of the villa, looking for clues to solve the mystery behind this tragedy. It didn't take long for the investigators to notice unusual signs. The doors and windows were locked from the inside, with no signs of an intruder from the outside. This quickly led the police to suspect that the fire might have been intentional, not an accident. So when samples from the scene were carefully analyzed, they discovered traces of flammable substances that had been deliberately used. More notably, Meera's fingerprints appeared on the items related to the fire. All this makes her the prime suspect in the investigation. Meera can no longer hide. Under the pressure of the investigation and with the irrefutable evidence, she knows it's over. During a tense interrogation, Meera decides to confess everything. She knows there's no point in hiding anymore. In a moment of courage and candor, she tells the whole story of her life, from being raped by her father-in-law Karan that fateful night, to discovering that she is HIV positive and that her unborn child may have been infected too. She explains in detail what happened, how her beloved husband Rahul turned his back on her, and how his entire family has been indifferent. But Meera doesn't stop there. She goes public with the crimes that her husband's family has been hiding for years. The dark secrets about Karan, the violence, abuse, and other crimes he committed that were never punished. Meera revealed everything, turning her confession into a public indictment before the public and the law. She denounced not only Karan's crimes but also the entire family system that had remained silent and tolerated his cruelty. Meera's confession was not only a way for her to vent her personal pain, but also a strong condemnation of those who had ruined her life and that of her unborn child. Meera knew that she would have to face the legal consequences of her actions, but that did not scare her, because in her heart the most important thing was that she had regained a little justice for herself. Meera felt at peace because she knew that in some way she had broken her silence, forcing the perpetrators to pay, at least morally, if not legally. Although the future ahead was bleak, in that moment Meera felt that she had won. No longer a victim, she had stood up and taken control of her life, even if the price was freedom. She accepted all the punishments, but had no regrets about what she had done. Meera knows that she has won a measure of justice, not only for herself but for her unborn child. After confessing to her crimes, Meera was arrested by the police and immediately brought to trial. The trial became the center of public attention not only because of the horrific fire but also because the dark secrets of Karan's family were exposed to the public. Karan's violent and abusive crimes, which had been covered up for many years, were now exposed. The public was divided into two camps. Some sympathized with the pain Meera had to endure, but there were also those who could not accept her cruel actions when she burned her husband's entire family alive in the fire of hatred. Although Meera's story touched the hearts of many, no one can deny that arson and murder are serious crimes. Meera was sentenced to 20 years in prison for arson and murder and faced many years in prison. However, facing that verdict, Meera had no regrets. For her, exposing the crimes of her husband's family and avenging herself was the only way for her to regain justice. For her, 20 years in prison was not only a punishment, but also a price she was willing to pay to regain peace for herself and her unborn child. The story ends with the image of Meera sitting quietly in her prison cell. Her heart was empty, but also carried a rare peace.